Hello, everybody. My name is James. Welcome to another Planet FPL Clash of the Correspondents. And on this week's podcast, we've got teams joining us at both ends of the Premier League table. Adam Pritchard's Arsenal aren't top, but he possibly feels like he is right now. How are you, Adam?
Yeah, I'm all things considered, I'm doing pretty well, thanks, James.
Aaron Lagor's Leicester aren't bottom either. Are you, Aaron?
Not last time I checked, no.
How are you, mate?
Yeah, good, thanks, mate.
Good
Good to be on.
stuff. Adam, we must start with yourselves and this dramatic game on Sunday. We are pre-recording on Monday evening. How does it feel at the moment? It kind of was almost a circus at the end. The amount of drama in it could fill a whole podcast, couldn't it?
Yeah, it was strange because obviously the nature of the kind of equalizing goal that City scored probably means I should feel more disappointed than I do, and even than I kind of did in the immediate aftermath. Because as soon as you're faced with the prospect of playing Man City for what ended up probably being like 55 minutes, but in theory 45 minutes down to 10 men, I was fearing the worst. And I think Arsenal teams of seasons gone by, maybe even as recently as 2 years ago, would have kind of crumbled under the level of pressure that they should have and kind of did apply. Um, but I was just so impressed with the collective buy-in that the team had to defend the lead. Um, and ultimately, a point even pre or before the game is not a terrible result. And in the circumstances, I think the way the players applied themselves to both the game plan when we had 11 men and then the rearguard action that we were kind of forced into when we were down to 10, I was just so impressed. And I felt more gutted, like watching the players react to Stones's goal. Like, I think it was, I can't remember which player, like dropped to the floor. And it felt like they had put so much into it that they deserved. You can't get more than a point from a draw, but they deserved something out of it. Ultimately not to be, but yeah, I can't feel too disappointed.
One person who didn't drop to the floor was Gabriel, although he might have in different circumstances if he'd known quite who had thrown the ball at the back of his head, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear this early into the
You
podcast,
can, you'll
but
be fine.
okay.
Kids, bleep machine.
Yeah, I feel like that was just such a bitch move from Haaland. Like his attitude from that minute, to be honest, for most of the game, but especially once we went down to 10 men, it was just like full of being like a snide kind of. He came across quite spoiled, I thought, and well, I'm sure we can get into the letter of the law stuff, but I think he was lucky not to receive a caution for either that or kind of his attitude after the whistle, where he told Arteta to stay humble, even though Arteta was just walking past him.
I thought
And
that,
he,
I mean, I've seen that clip now and I hadn't when we recorded the podcast Monday morning. I saw that and it takes something for me to say, I actually thought Arteta handled that quite well.
yeah, I thought, considering the kind of guy he is and how kind of explosive we've seen him be on the touchline in the past, I was very surprised he kind of just walked away and he tried to
When he
get.
got his players away from him
Yeah, he
as
got
well.
Jesus and Ben White away from him as well, and then Haaland goes and like squares up to Miles Lewis Skelly, who's 17 and made his debut, and it's just like, yeah. So I wasn't. I think I kind of lost a little bit of respect for him. Not that anyone cares about that, but yeah, he didn't leave a great impression on me.
What was the bigger result, the point yesterday or Rodri's unfortunate injury?
You never want to kind of be in the position, and I would never like celebrate an injury to kind of an opposing player. It kind of looked like one of those incidents that seems innocuous, but when you see a player go down like he did off a seemingly innocuous incident, you kind of fear that it could be a serious ligament or muscle injury. I mean, City have kind of coped okay without him in the past, so I don't think it's something that makes me kind of think, oh, we're definitely going to win the league now. But I think there's no doubt that it significantly impacts their ability to play. I mean, he's like one of the best players in the world, so losing him is going to like it's going to be a big loss to them. Um, I feel like yeah, maybe it's kind of too close to the incident to really see how it's going to play out over the next kind of couple of games. But yeah, I mean, it does boost Arsenal's title chances, but I don't know if it's kind of like a massive, massive swing.
Mentally, though. I think what your players went through on Sunday, I think they've learned from the two games at the Etihad this year that they know. I don't want to say got City's number, but let's say you can match them.
Yeah, and
Um,
I think the reaction from Haaland and the other City players, that they seem to be going on like a worldwide press tour, like they've just finished filming a movie or something. But
is
they
that celebration, please, Adam Pritchard? It better not
no,
be,
no,
mate.
no, they're entitled to their celebration, but I think they're rattled. The comments that they were saying, they were talking about like kind of Arsenal's time wasting tactics, the kind of delaying the restarts and all that kind of stuff. And I think previously Arsenal have been so, or maybe not outwardly dismissed, but it's kind of been a bit of a big brother, little brother. Oh, look at Arteta trying to do his mini Pep thing. Isn't that cute? We'll spank them 3-0 and move on with our life and kind of forget this ever happened. But I think you can tell that they respect Arsenal, certainly in a footballing sense, and take us as like a credible threat to their kind of title challenges.
Aaron, let's bring you in. Neutral opinion on this then. Is it just these two teams, Arsenal and City, at the title, or can you see like Liverpool staying the course with them, for example?
I think you would probably say that Arsenal and City are ahead. Liverpool have started well and look like they could be there or thereabouts. But yeah, it's down to those two, really, I would say. I just think they've just got a little bit more than Liverpool. So, Slot coming in, not knowing the league and stuff as well, kind of goes against them a little bit, even though they've obviously started well. So, yeah, it looks as if it's going to be one of those two that gets over the line, I would say.
Who would you rather play this weekend, Arsenal or City?
Um, if I was pushed, probably, I don't know really, probably City.
Because what with the Rodri news?
Yeah, possibly. Um, yeah, I mean, Arsenal are very difficult to break down, aren't they? And that's something that we are going to struggle with at the weekend. So we'll probably get more chances at City against City than we would with Arsenal, I'd probably say. But I mean, I'd rather play neither, to be fair.
No, no, no. I completely get that and understand that. But Adam, that almost speaks volumes a little bit, doesn't it? The fact that Aaron's having to think about that.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I still think City are a better attacking team than us, certainly in this moment. And I think it's because they've got the best striker in the world. But yeah, I think what we've been able to show in this quite difficult start to the season is our defense is, if it wasn't kind of considered last season, I think it's probably safe to say it's the best defense in the league. I think is a fair argument to be made that we've got the best centre back partnership in world football, maybe at the moment. I don't think that's too controversial to say. So yeah, I think we're almost kind of flipped the stereotype to how we were like a few years ago, where now we're a defense to be feared rather than necessarily an attack first and foremost.
Okay, devil's advocate question. Try and be don't rub you up the wrong way a little bit. I'm hearing Arsenal and Mourinho being mentioned in the same sentences today. Like, how are you feeling about this?
I, to be honest, the kind of people who are saying that stuff, I don't really care about their opinions. If I'm it's reductive to the point of like it's not worth considering. It's like Arsenal are down to 10 men against Man City. Like what? I don't really know what people expect
To
us to
be
do.
fair, though, some prominent journalists today saying the second half yesterday was shades of, Inter Milan in the Camp Nou in 2010, I think it was, for example. There are
Yeah,
some similarities there, aren't there?
well, there are some similarities, but it's not like it's not out of choice. Like I don't think in Arteta's dream scenario, he goes 2-0 or 2-1 up, sorry, gets a man sent off before half time and then thinks, oh yes, my dastardly plan is coming together and sits kind of 9 men behind the ball. I feel like it was what he had to do, and it's like the right decision. I think any manager would have done that really.
No, fair. And what have you made you start? I mean, I suppose if I'd have offered you two defeats from the first five, considering you were on probably the lowest of all the correspondents we spoke to, I think, on correspondent week, you probably would have slapped my hand off for that, wouldn't you? But at the same time, it's it's winless. How are you feeling about things at the moment?
Yeah, a bit conflicted. I think, yeah, I am feeling. We just said off camera, like I'm feeling much more positive about how things are going. I do think that there's been games that, the Palace one, last minute penalty, 2-0 up. You're looking at that, and it isn't a game particularly we went into it looking to win. Obviously looking to win, but obviously we weren't really favourites for that particular game, and we acquitted ourselves pretty well. We've had a few lapses of concentration and stuff, but there's certain game, even the first game of the season. Obviously, you were there. We could have won it as bad as it was for 55 minutes until we got the goal. There has been we've never really been out of games,
Yep.
particularly, which is helping. So hopefully we can sort of scrape a win here and there. But yeah, I mean, looking at on the face of it, we could have done with probably one win out of that. But yeah, I think there's positive signs. I think it's been a bit of a mixed bag of fixtures, but there's some been difficult ones in there as well. So yeah, I think there's a bit of credit there for Cooper to.
I suppose Saturday's kind of the real disappointment one because it's the first one you probably went into really targeting the 3 points.
Yeah, yeah. I guess it was a game on paper you look at and you think, with how Everton have started, that we would have wanted to win that game. But the important thing is we didn't lose it, and it keeps them sort of down there. And yeah, it could have gone either way. So yeah, I think that we're going to find that difficult, aren't we? The games where we're probably be looking to pick, we're maybe more favourites in the game. Then does that play into the opposition's hands a little bit? And then we've got to come out a little bit. But yeah, I think there's cause for optimism so far. Anyway.
You're also on 3 points. A lot of neutrals think you should be on -4. That's the best result so far, isn't it?
Yeah, you could say that.
I mean, how have you gotten away with this PSR thing, mate?
Well, it's because the Premier League can't write their own rules properly, can
It's true.
they?
Can't argue it.
I mean, I'm amazed that we've managed to wriggle out of that one. To be honest with you, on a well, people saying a loophole. It's not even a loophole. It's just the rules, isn't it? But it's just amazing. And yes, it should give the whole club a lift because realistically, we were looking at 6 to 7 points, weren't we? So, and with how we've started and everything, and how difficult it's going to be, it would have been really bleak, I think, if we'd have got that. So, yeah, it just incredible that
I
we've
think it's fair
managed
to
to do
say,
that.
based on Everton's punishment last year, it was going to be at least 6 points. I cannot foresee how it was going to be less than that when your failure was over Everton's amount from last year. Do you feel a bit dirty about it, or do you not give a shit? And I don't blame you either way.
um, I mean, it feels very strange. I think, like you said on some of the pods, it's going to be if we stay up by a point or two, or it's going to feel quite. It's going to feel wrong. I think we need to try and make sure that we can, if we're going to stay up, then we stay up by a few points, and then there's not a stick to beat us with that. Yeah, it does feel a bit unjust. I think it's more of the impact of how the other clubs feel about it that have been obviously had the points deductions with this PSR stuff. So yeah, I mean we're delighted, obviously, and we shouldn't care about it too much. But yeah, it does feel a bit strange. How are we supposed to react to it? We're obviously elated
No,
that
you
it's
should
not
celebrate
there.
and laugh your head off, mate, because it's
Yeah,
not your problem. You
yeah,
have to get the anger and understand it from particularly obviously the Everton and Nottingham Forest perspective. And you probably
yeah,
would have heard me say, I kind of either hope you go down or you finish like 15 points clear, and it's not a thing because it will feel
yeah.
dirty at the end. Adam, your reaction when you heard that Leicester were getting off?
I mean, in some ways, it's like kind of the most Premier League thing to happen, is it? They can't even enforce their own legislation properly. So there's that kind of like ironic aspect to it all. And I mean, I think it's not linked, but it's similar to the kind of thing that Man City fans are obviously going through at the moment with the charges that are against their club, in that it's like the de-footballification of football, where like no fan should really have to be thinking about this stuff. They shouldn't have to be either disappointed or celebrating something that's happening off the pitch. And I feel bad for, obviously, like not bad for Leicester fans in this scenario, but almost bad that clubs around them are going to be like attacking them for something that is like completely out of their control. And to an extent, it's out of their club's control because people should be angry at the Premier League. They shouldn't be angry at Leicester, shouldn't be angry at Leicester fans. But yeah, it's kind of sad that it's another kind of notch in that particular copybook in terms of people just having to be forced to focus about things outside of their football team.
I mean, of course, all that drama on Sunday at the Etihad, I mean, it might be immaterial when City get their 100-point deduction, right?
I was going to say they can keep up their home record in League Two against Wickham, so I'm sure they'll be delighted about that.
I've seen some very cruel messages about Rodri today and his, being ready for the first game in the National League next year and stuff like that. That's very unlikely to happen, though, isn't it? Because I think City will appeal. Even if they did get done, they'll appeal and it's going to go beyond this season, basically, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think any kind of slight thought that I had that City might get punished for this went completely out the window when Leicester weren't punished for their breaches, or the charges that were levied against them. And yeah, City have got so much money. They can pay the best lawyers in the world to kind of filibuster this in court for years and years. So I can't see anything like that happening. Maybe there'll be a fine, but I would think that would be it really.
How do you see the battle at the bottom, Adam? Do you expect Leicester to be one of the ones right down there?
Yeah, I think I predicted them to stay up in my preseason
Is that because you
prediction.
knew this had been scheduled?
Oh well, yeah. Obviously, I've got inside kind of like inside track with you, and obviously I knew how the ruling was going to go with the Premier League. So no, yeah, I think I expect them to be down there. I think everyone's kind of predicting all three of the recently promoted clubs to either get relegated or be in serious trouble. But I think there's enough in at least kind of what I've seen from them so far to suggest that there's like a decent amount of hope there. Like I think of they're certainly not the worst of the three promoted sides. I think that's like fairly safe to say.
I think you made a very good point, Aaron, about you being close in all the games so far. You've lost 2-1 to Fulham and Villa and drawn the other three, which obviously includes my team, and obviously you were 2-0 up at Palace as well. So you're in and around these games. That feels really important. Has anything changed for you in your psyche in terms of the teams around you? Is there anyone around you think, oh, good, I see them, they're going to be closer to us, or oh shit, they're going to be better than I thought they were?
Yeah, I think there's I mean, Southampton stick out, I think, as someone that's going to struggle most of the season. Um, I mean, I think I probably predicted Forest to struggle, but I mean they've started really well, so that's a bit of a surprise. Yeah, I mean there are teams down there that we'd like to think we can pick points up against. Everton are going to have a long hard season, aren't they? But their fixtures turn now, so they need to start picking up some results. Yeah, I mean we've got a chance, and I think that's as long as that remains the case, and we can do not worry about other people too much and just concentrate on ourselves. Then yeah, we've got there's hope there, and as long as that remains the case, then we have got a chance.
It is worth saying you could still get a points deduction based on the most recent failure. We don't know officially if you beat the most recent accounts. We knew it was going to be close, right? With obviously Dewsbury Hall, Sal, and Maresca moving on. What's the feeling towards Steve Cooper at the moment? Because I think it's absolutely right to say he's come in. Games have been quite tight. This is kind of what we expected. I understand there was quite a bit of booing when Mavadivi got taken off at Saturday, and I certainly experienced firsthand that when his name was read out prior to the opening game against Tottenham, it wasn't exactly like whoop whoop. I mean, there was smattering of boos amongst that.
Yeah, I mean I just don't get that mentality. You should give the guy a chance. I mean, I don't know. I don't understand that. I really don't understand
It
that.
links to Forest primarily as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like the
but I
two
mean,
clubs don't
how?
like each other.
No, they don't. But I mean, surely you can sit back and look at what he did at Forest and know that he did a good job in the circumstances that he had there. And what chance do you give the guy if you're booing him before we've even kicked a ball of the season? So, I mean, he's come in and we spoke about in pre-season how undercooked we were, and it showed in that first hour or so of that first game. But he's getting there. He's working it out. We got some signings in before the window, and I think he's working it out, and he's doing the best he can with the tools he's got. And I think yeah, I've been quietly impressed with certain aspects of how we've gone in some of the games. But yeah, I mean, I think he's very realistic in terms of like where we are, and things are improving, but it's going to take some time. There's still players to gel into it all, and it seems like we've got more of a settled back line now, which is helping. So I think he's done as best he can so far. So yeah, credit to him for that.
Okay. Adam, I take you're delighted with 11 points from the 5 games, considering particularly the 3 away games you've had.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, especially given the circumstances that we faced in some of those, like obviously not just the City game, but the Brighton game, going down to 10 men as well. I think it's a very good it's a very good kind of point tool so far. Almost perhaps, perhaps probably what I might have expected, but I think kind of like I'm saying, given the context of those matches, I think it's very good.
You've got a couple of really good fixtures coming up now where you expect to get maximum points, clearly. Then there's a tougher run. I spoke about this with you in pre-season. Come out of sort of game week 11 after you've gone to Chelsea. If you're top of the league after that, would really fancy you, because then there's a massive run till you go to Anfield in game week 36, where in terms of away fixtures, you look pretty comfortable, basically. I think bar a trip to Old Trafford in sort of March. Also, that's it. That's the only one you've got, I think, for the expected top 8 between game week 11 and I think Liverpool's game week 36 away from home, just Manchester United over that whole period. How big does this period feel? Does it feel definitive this early?
It's always hard to say, but I think it's set the tempo for the season very well. Like I feel like last season we had somewhat kind of fixtures, and we started off certainly from an attacking perspective, we weren't nearly as fluid as we kind of got to after the December January period. So to play the way that we're playing, where yes, we've been very good defensively, but I think we haven't been perfect, and to get the results that we have gotten suggests there's still room for improvement. And I think that's a credit to the players, given kind of the amount of them that were involved in international duty over the summer. And I think it bodes well for like the trajectory for the rest of our year to start off at this level. I think we're kind of a notch above this time last season.
What's the next game you've got that's not must win?
That's not much. Well, I think we talked about this preseason. You could argue that every game in the league is must win. If you want to talk about the Champions League, I don't really think anyone knows as of yet how the new format's going to work.
Nah,
But
forget that.
yeah, I feel like in the league, then I think you have to win every game, especially having come off such a grueling set of certainly away fixtures. These, what appear on paper to be easy fixtures, almost it's like, right, you've put in the hard yards, now do the job where you should be doing the job, get the 3 points at home in fixtures like this one, where it should be kind of a routine win in theory.
Okay, you've got Bolton this week in the Carabao. Are we expected a team of kids, basically?
Well, I mean, if you looked at the bench against Man City, that's kind of all we've got really at the
Yeah.
moment anyway. We won't be able to use a backup goalkeeper because obviously Neto is cup tied, and our young goalkeeper that we signed from Ajax got injured. So I think David Raya will play. I would imagine.
Despite limping out of the Etihad, it's worth saying.
I didn't see that. But yeah, no, I think other than that, we've not really got any keepers of note to play. But yeah, I mean, I'd expect Jesus to play. Sterling will probably play. The youngsters, Ranieri and Lewis
Jorginho will
Skelly.
play, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah, but otherwise it'll be
Kivior.
kids. Give
Well,
you
yeah, that's all we've got. I mean, like even though we've managed to collect about 72 left backs, it seems like they're all injured at the moment. So yeah, it's going to be it's going to be a bit of a patchwork side, I would expect, which I guess you could lean the other way. And given what we have on the bench and given what we have left to fill the place of first team players, like I don't think it would be the biggest shock in the world if Saka played. Like he got taken off early, obviously against Man City, so I don't think it's completely out of the question.
There's a lot of people who want to captain Saka this week, which includes
Mhm.
myself actually as it stands. So I shouldn't be spooked if, oh my God, he's in the team against Bolton. I shouldn't be spooked by that.
No, I feel like we're kind of conditioned now, like Arsenal fans and like FPL players in general, conditioned to expect Arteta to, if Saka's got two legs, he'll play.
But you also know what people are going to say if Saka's in that team, don't you?
Yeah, there's going to be a massive meltdown on Twitter. Which I'm sure there will be regardless. But yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised if he played.
We're not aware of any problem for him when he came off. It was just tactical, right?
Yeah, I haven't seen anything
Did
about
you
it.
think my take on that was because I think if it would, why didn't he take Martinelli off? But I don't think didn't want to put Saka or Havertz on that side. And I think the thought process was Havertz was, well, at least you could aim for him at goal kicks and stuff.
Yeah. I think Havertz is more comfortable in that midfield battle as well. So yeah, better at defending set pieces, like better in the air.
And
So
that, yeah.
I think it kind of made sense, really.
Yeah. Okay. Aaron, your team goes to Walsall this week. Is that
Mhm.
same full rotation, is it?
Yeah, I would suspect so. I think that he's defensively we've been relatively quite settled, so it might be worth getting some guys a few minutes back there. He's rotated a little bit in the forward positions, but yeah, I think it would be quite well changed. I think it
Okay.
should be really.
Adam, it's Leicester Southampton at home. This is a PSG game, punctuated by that as well. It's worth saying all four of these games, including the Bolton game, are obviously all at the Emirates. Can you foresee rotation in the two league games because of the PSG game in the middle?
Well, this is kind of a similar situation we got into last year where there was the Gabriel bet. Was it at home to Nottingham Forest? He got rested last season.
What game week one?
Well, there was another game where I remember someone getting rested. But yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised if there was. But then again, like with the injury situation we've got at the moment and the kind of timelines around the likes of Zinchenko aren't totally clear. But there's not a whole lot we can rest at this point.
Okay. So anyone who's fantasy manager wise wants to invest in Arsenal assets shouldn't really worry about it. Should just get the players they want.
Yeah, and I feel like the players that everyone is kind of thinking of are likely to be the most secure. Like I think Saka has proven himself so important. Havertz is ever important in the team as well. The two centre backs, obviously, like we were talking about earlier, very, very good. And then Raya, I think they're probably the main options at the moment.
You're on wildcard.
No, I wildcarded the week before last.
Okay. What Arsenal did you go with?
I went with Raya and Saka.
And I take it you're adding a third this week, are you?
I've already made my transfer this week,
Gabriel's in.
advisedly. No, Martinelli.
No.
Well, yes, Martinelli is in.
Ooh.
Gabriel Martinelli.
Despite the fact, obviously, Trossard is only suspended for the League Cup tie. That's a gamble, isn't it?
Yeah, and it was funny because I kind of only forgot that, or I only remembered
I
rather.
did the same on the main pod.
Yeah, well, I listened to you and you said, "Oh, Trossard would have been a great option had he not been suspended," and that was kind of my thinking as well.
Sorry, mate.
Yeah, no, it's all right. I
Blame
can blame
me.
you when that goes wrong. But he did. I don't think he's looked particularly great for most of this season. Like prior to the Man City game, I think he's looked well, kind of continued a relatively concerningly long streak of bad form. But I thought against Man City, he looked much better. He looked
He
much
put
more
a
lively.
phenomenal work shift in, it must be
Yeah.
said.
So I think that kind of little bit of improved performance was enough to give me the confidence. And also with Ødegaard out, like I don't think there's as much. Like I think it's conceivable that Havertz, Martinelli, Trossard, and Saka will continue to start until he's back.
So you're going to go into this weekend with what? Raya, Martinelli, Saka.
Yeah.
If you were on wildcard this week, do you think that's the same three that you would choose?
No, I think I'd try and be a little bit more long term and go for one of the centre backs instead of Martinelli.
Okay. So is the fact you bought Martinelli, is that part influenced by your own team and having a problem in that area, basically?
Yeah, I Yeah, basically, I had Minter who I wanted to get rid of, and I wanted to do a switch basically with Palmer, to get Jackson in up front. So yeah, it's just situational for me.
Okay. Aaron, on wildcard?
I am, yeah.
Go
Yeah.
on then. Which three Arsenal are we going with? Well, none actually, because I think we're going to go there and win, James.
If only. Yeah, I've gone Raya, Gabriel, and Saka. I think that seems to be the best three. I think if it wasn't for the Odegaard injury, I may have gone Havertz, but the fact that he's probably playing, looks like he's going to be playing maybe more in midfield, kind of puts me off that. So
Okay. Who
yeah.
do you think let's tie up a few of those bits then. Who do you think will start as the nine on Saturday then, Adam?
I would expect Havertz to start.
So you think you'd still play up top and then what, say Trossard, Rice behind, basically? We expecting
Yeah,
Rice to go back into more a little bit more of an advanced role because of the change in fixtures now.
I mean, I would expect so. We're likely to be kind of more ball dominant than we have been setting up in a lot of these away games. I know that I think Marino is expected to return to training this weekend, so I don't think he's too far away either. So that could see kind of another shift in that midfield dynamic. But yeah, I would definitely expect Havertz to remain as the striker.
Okay, interesting. Does that change anything for you, Adam? Aaron, sorry.
Um, Not particularly, no. Um, Although we're obviously we're not the greatest at defending set pieces, are we?
Oh, hello.
We're better. We're better this season, but yeah, he could have a bit of joy, couldn't he? Um,
Okay. Adam, would you make any case for Saliba over Gabriel at the moment?
The only thing I would be able to say is kind of what I was speculating pre-season in that there could be more rotation in that left centre back spot than I think there is likely to be in the right centre back position. But other than that, that kind of would only be me being ultra cautious. Like if you were to tell me one of them is going to be benched in one of these kind of more favourable fixtures, I would say it's probably more likely to be Gabriel. I
Okay.
don't know that that's definitely going to happen, but he would be the one of the two I would expect.
All right, let's sell this a slightly different way then. Let's say next 10 fixtures, Saliba starts them all, and Gabriel misses one, starts nine. Who do you think scores more points?
Um, well, I mean, Saliba's not bad in the air, so I don't think I feel like
Saliba scoring is like an inevitability, isn't it?
yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah.
almost
Yeah.
certainly going to be in the game that Gabriel is benched. Like it's just the
Yeah.
way it ends up. Like he's certainly not bad in the air. But yeah, Gabriel obviously seems to be the targeted man from our set pieces. So yeah, I don't think anyone would be surprised if he got another goal over the next few games.
Okay. Let's do that differently then. Why, for those on wildcard, why say Raya over Saliba at this moment?
Um, he seems to be doing quite well on the bonus points.
Hmm.
And I suppose we've had tougher fixtures, but he's been making a lot of saves.
I think
Um,
I saw a stat. He's made nearly half the saves that he made all of last season.
mm. Yeah, well, I suppose we have had those kind of
It's obviously
provable.
exaggerated massively by, the Man City game just now, for example. I think he only made about 45 saves last season, actually.
Mm.
And what did he make? Nine on Sunday or so?
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, he's doing quite well in the bonus. So I think that shouldn't or that should be a factor in people's thinking. And the fact that the goalkeeper spot, I would imagine for people on wildcard is a little bit more difficult to tie down. It doesn't really feel like there's been a standout 4.5 emerge at the moment. I think people who have gone for Ramsdale probably realised that that might be a mistake given how leaky Southampton seem. So I think it's probably easier to fill that goalkeeper spot with Raya than it like there are more defensive options effectively. And I guess price as well, if you're penny pinching and you're trying to fit in a Salah and Haaland draft but you want a share of Arsenal defensive coverage, saving that kind of point 0.5 or point 0.6, I think it would be to Gabriel. I can see why people would do that.
Any case to save on Timber versus Saliba or Gabriel?
Um, I was surprised he started right back. So I think the fact that, and obviously Ben White didn't appear to have an injury given he came on. So I think perhaps that shows a willingness to use him across the kind of hypothetical positions where he's versatile in those big games. So I suppose that would be a string to his bow. I I do feel though that given the amount of options Arsenal now have in those fullback positions, that I personally would prefer the security of one of the centre backs or the goalkeeper.
Okay, makes sense. For people not on Wildcard, and there will definitely be someone like this who own Ben White at this moment, what are you saying to him?
Uh, Sorry, I don't know. Is that the right thing to say?
Well, is it move? Is it like right, just take the opportunity and just go to Gabriel, get it done, or
I mean, like obviously it's like situational depending on what you've got in your team. I feel like Ben White is like I don't think there's any doubt that he's the first choice right back. Like it's not like he's performed badly and has been displaced or anything like that. I think the reason why he was rested or rotated on the weekend was tactical more than anything else. And I think we only got to see it kind of briefly, but we set up in. I know you like to talk about the kind of box midfield quite a lot. We sort of, in possession at times, set up in a box defence where we have both fullbacks inverting, trying to kind of secure down the midfield. I think a little bit more, given that I think that's been an area of weakness for us this season so far. So I think that decision was more tactical than anything else. But again, I can understand people maybe getting those itchy trigger fingers to get him out of their team.
do you think
I would,
you think you'll probably start Saturday? I know probably Wednesday night's going to have an impact on that, but
yeah, I would think he would start, and it seemed like Calafiori. He certainly mentioned in his post match that he struggled a little bit with the physicality of the City game, and now I get that's kind of a particularly intense environment, but I wouldn't be too surprised if we saw Timber at left back again and then Ben White at right back.
okay. You are ninth for expected goals conceded so far this season. I certainly understand there's a difficult set of fixtures in there, but is it right, therefore, that so many of us are looking to go double Arsenal defence? Is there something in the underlying? People say, oh, Haaland can't sustain these numbers. Is there anything here that we should be looking at with Arsenal and saying, hang on a minute, is this right?
Um, as in reasons to be sceptical of our defensive performance.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, if you look at some of the circumstances in which we've kept those clean sheets, like I think the Villa game is particularly one that stands out. Obviously, the Raya, I guess it technically might be a double save, but Ollie Watkins certainly should have scored in that game. I think a lot of that has been down to the midfield structure. Like I think obviously missing missing Odegaard and not having the extra kind of fortitude that someone certainly in dual winning that Marino would give us in midfield. I think you've been able to see that the defensive midfield that we have had, it kind of looks a little bit leggy. Like you saw what Morgan Rogers did, and Morgan Rogers is obviously a great player, but he's not like a world beater at this point. He's a player with great potential, but I think the way that we've been set up so far on midfield has been particularly kind of open to being exposed. So I think that's probably led to more chances coming at us down the centre than perhaps we're used to previously, which we've always been quite good at being compact with the way that we've kind of pressed, certainly with Odegaard leading that press. So I think possibly that's a reason. I wouldn't like worry too much about it from an FPL perspective though.
Second most shots conceded in the leg, 90.
Again, I'm going to guess that yesterday at time of recording, the
Yeah,
City
obviously. I mean, actually, if I look at the top three on this list, just for the record, Brentford, Arsenal, and Newcastle, they've all got something in common. Actually, they've all played my team this season. And actually, for Brentford, who's above you, they've obviously just played Manchester City before playing my team as well. Yes, of course, the game on Sunday obviously has a massive impact on that. But still, you conceded 11 more shots this season than Aaron's team.
Is it another Leicester title winning season? Is that what we're about to talk about here?
Aaron, is Steve Cooper likely to be buying pizza anytime soon? I suppose when that clean sheet arrives, if it arrives this Saturday, he really should take them all out for a pizza, shouldn't
Why not? Yeah.
He looks more like a Cornish pasty man to me, but you know.
I just find the interest in. I think Adam. I think we're all. I'm just playing devil's advocate. I think we're all in agreement. Like you're the strongest defense, but it is interesting that none of us are using these statistics to ask the question and say, "Is that right?" When actually a
And
few people who are without Haaland are going, "No, hang on a minute, he can't sustain that." That's all I'm saying.
yeah, no, I think that's fair. But I think when you look at the context of the fixtures, and obviously we've been playing with 10 men for near enough 100 minutes of this season so far. Obviously the Brighton and City game. So I think that should kind of mitigate those concerns enough.
No, fair. Saka versus Havertz.
Saka, I think I made the mistake at the start of the season going without him, and it was a clear mistake. I think not even in hindsight. I'm sure people probably told me at the time. I just didn't listen to them.
Okay.
I
I
think
don't know if you remember last summer when you were like, I'm going about Gabriel Jesus.
yeah,
And
that
you were
went
like,
well.
yeah, it actually didn't. Was it or was it 2 years ago? Was it against Leicester that he went
He did, yeah,
he
2 years
yeah,
ago.
it was.
Yeah.
He hauled against Leicester, didn't he?
Mm.
Mm.
Maybe the answer is Gabriel Jesus then, Adam.
I mean,
No, it's not.
Jesus might be the answer for some people, but not for me in this
Okay,
circumstance.
fair enough. Feels like wrong time of year to be saying that, but okay. I intend to captain Saka this week.
Mhm.
Is that correct in your opinion? Assuming I
Um,
had every player.
yeah, I mean, assuming you had a player that you don't have. Um,
Okay, I realize it's quite easy for me this week.
yeah, I don't like. I think for me at the moment in my team, I have Haaland, and it's a toss up really, mainly because I've not been too impressed with how Newcastle have looked. I think if Newcastle had kind of looked a little bit more defensively solid, like we were expecting them to, then I think Saka would be like a clear good shout. Um, at the moment, like it's bust on Haaland. That's because that's where it was last week, really. But yeah, it's a tough one for owners with both, I think.
Aaron, who you intend to captain this week?
Saka, I think.
Do
Yeah,
you own Haaland or not?
I do. Yeah, yeah. I've had him all season. Uh,
Is this
uh,
Aaron pre-season confidence? Are you lulling Adam the way you were lulling me? Or are you just lulling me again because I intend to captain him?
well, you're not captaining Vardy. I mean, he's got a great record against Arsenal.
I was going to say the Vardy penalty, definitely.
Vardy, Vardy, I'm hoping to fluke points off the bench with.
Yeah, I'm just currently on Saka, but I mean, it can, yeah, I think, they say have a plan and stick to it, and that was the plan kind of leading up to this game. So I think it would take a lot for me to sway off that, even regardless of what Haaland's done so far.
Yeah, I think with the Haaland one, you could really put your narratives either way, couldn't you? You could do exactly what Adam said. So Newcastle, then you could, oh, it's still St James's Park. And then you go, yeah, but they're not great defensively. And then you go, well, but Rodri's missing as well. Like you really could put your narratives either way on that, it feels like. Whereas, yeah, I think for those like me and you were planning to captain Saka this week, that'll be the way to go. I'm also intending probably Adam to captain in game week 7 at home to Southampton. I guess that's the better fixture, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, I would say so. Certainly. Although again, Southampton at home, that's never gone wrong for us in the past. So
No, no, absolutely hasn't. If I'm correct in saying, you haven't lost at home to Southampton in the Premier League era, actually, Adam. But we just
yeah, well
remember
we
the night you drew.
yeah, I was gonna say I just remember the one very painful memory from recent seasons. Yeah, no, I think captaining him then would probably be a better shout than it would be this
So
week.
when Saka's returns a whopping assist and a blank in these two home games, Adam, and I'm looking at game week 8, and there's a non-Haaland owner and non-Salah owner, I'm looking at my best options, and it might still be Saka at Bournemouth. Do you think I might have lost the will to live by this point?
I mean, you're a Spurs fan relying on Arsenal players to score, so I think you're kind of losing the will to live at that point anyway.
Listen, I cheered when Haaland scored on Sunday and make no apologies for it, mate.
Uh, yeah, I mean, I think I think if you're going in with an intention, the way that your team is set up to captain Saka at Bournemouth away, you've kind of got to consider that. I think people maybe still have a slight misconception of how good Bournemouth are as a team. Like I know it's still kind of everyone liked what they were doing last season. Obviously, certainly the second half of the season they were much improved compared to the first. But I don't think Bournemouth away is it's not a gimme. That's for sure.
No, I like them. They're a good side.
Yeah, it's certainly I wouldn't say it's near the level that the Southampton at home game would be in terms of like confidence of Saka hauling. Um, but yeah, maybe that's a situation where you think I might just chance it on a defender. If you think this could be a much tighter game, but you still have confidence in the Arsenal defence, Gabriel from a set piece, maybe that's the time he scores again.
If you had to captain Gabriel and Leicester at home, Southampton at home, or Bournemouth away, which one would you pick?
If assuming I have another Arsenal player, I think the Southampton game, I feel like it'd be quite foolish to captain a defender when you've got an attacker in that fixture. So
But
it probably
it's
would be.
also based on what we've seen so far, the most likely for a clean sheet, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. And I don't think they're particularly good at defending set pieces either. But I would say of those three, I think it would be the Bournemouth one, only because I would expect Saka to return in each of the
In the
others with
others.
more
Okay.
confidence.
I get what you're saying. All right, Aaron, don't want to leave you out of this. I bought Jamie Vardy last week.
Yeah.
You were quick to tell some of the other correspondents. Isn't it exciting? James was thinking about buying Vardy, and as soon as I saw that, I went, shouldn't do this. So,
Well, was it
the reaction to the fact that I guess I've committed to Vardy for a period of time, and it is worth saying, yes, it is Arsenal away this week, but afterwards, Bournemouth at home, promoted Southampton away, Forest at home, promoted Ipswich away. There's a good four fixtures there, an important run for you.
Yeah, I can see why you've gone there because I think I probably even mentioned it in Slack myself that the fixtures they look good, don't they? And now he's playing near to 90 minutes. I know Edouard's come in, but I think if Vardy's fit, he will start. So I think it's a decent punt to take. I think he was close to me on Wildcard. I'm probably going to go Calvert-Lewin just because their fixtures are better for a longer period. But
And
it's
I presume you want a forward start this week, and the Arsenal game's off-putting from that perspective, is it?
a little bit in that respect. Yeah, I think if I was going in and I could bench Vardy this week, then I'd consider it. I think. Yeah, and I guess if anything happens with Calvert-Lewin, which it inevitably will at some point, because he doesn't stay fit for very long, even though he has had a good stretch of games now, hasn't he? Going back to the end of last season, so he looks like he's got over his bad problems now. But I can always drop down to Vardy if anything happens there. So
The people on Wildcard this week, Vardy, Calvert-Lewin, Wood, you're saying you're going to go DCLs. Is that the advice then?
pick your poison, I suppose. I mean,
It feels a bit like that.
yeah, I don't. They're all good options, aren't they? I think for me.
Are they? It might all be shit, Aaron, to be
There
honest.
might be. I think they're good price point though, aren't they? Because there's a few
Yeah.
at that price point that you can kind of jump around. Obviously, Pedro's there as well if he gets fit, even though he might have taken a bit of a knock now. So yeah, and Woods now it looks like he's on pens, which everyone will go mad for. So there's a nice little pool there, isn't there? As like the third striker spot. So you can it's one of those where if anything happens to DCL, then Vardy's there. So yeah, I am tempted, but yeah, I just think that DCL, if he stays fit, that's a long run of fixtures that you can just stick him in and just.
The reality is, if you're on wildcard this week and you want a forward who's going to start this week, you're not going to pick Vardy because of the opponent.
No.
Nothing to do with him. People are going to have Arsenal defensive, presumably, unless they're going Saka, Martinelli, Havertz. I don't know, like an Arsenal offensive. I don't know how. Surely there's not going to be many people wildcard this week and don't go treble Arsenal with the two fixtures right in front of you. Surely,
Are you playing Vardy against Arsenal?
no.
Right.
That was always the part of the plan. That when I brought him in, I was in a position where I could. I mean, I benched Saka at City last week, so I was in a position knew I could bench Vardy this week. But the full intention is to play him in the four afterwards. And it kind of worked timing wise where he's at Pedro's price, where Brighton gets to a good run of fixtures afterwards. And also when it gets bad for you, also Wolves come into good fixtures. So like Cunha, Larson could even be something like that as well. I kind of come to a conclusion. I wanted to forward around that price point. Didn't want to go down the Everton route and wasn't convinced by Chris Wood. I think it's easy to say hindsight because he scored at the weekend, but if I could have had the moment back, I probably would have gone Chris Wood.
Yeah.
But then I wouldn't be too in love with looking at him away to Chelsea next week. But their fixtures are also decent across the next five. If you combine them, like between yourselves, Forest, and Everton, It's all good fiction. Actually, Ipswich got a good run as well. And it's the one I would have got on was Visser, who
Yeah.
got injured because Brentford obviously into a good run, but no forwards to pick up from them now as well. Yeah, I'm not too disappointed. I've gone with Vardy. The intention, yes, would be to bench him this week. He has, however, though, Aaron, one stat that I wasn't aware of when I put him in my team, and I can't get it out of my head now. He's had less shots this season than David Luiz. And when I look at my bench and I think, well, if I do have to play Vardy, what's my alternatives? And I look and it's bloody David Luiz. Sideshow Bob Wout Fass is sitting there right next to Vardy. That's my two substitutes available for this coming week. I think I'd have to play Vardy if it was one of the two.
Think
Um,
so, yeah. Yeah.
what would you say to people who want to consider Fass? He probably is every chance he will go up in price, despite the fixture going into this week as the highest scoring defender around about that price. He's 4.1. If someone comes to a conclusion they could bench it this week, really useful for forthcoming weeks, is it still him or would you rather pay for a collie?
No, I think it's him. I think it's him. He's been in this side for a lot longer. Um, there is a chance that a collie still could come out the team. I don't think so. I don't think he's done anything wrong. I think he's settled in okay, actually. But no, I think Fast is if you were going to pick one of the two, it would be Fast now. Yeah. He seems to have got over that little grumbling of playing left-sided centre back and has got his wish. Which I
Yeah.
think we did speak about in pre-season that one of them might come out the team. So yeah, I think Fass is the one. He'll be good bench cover and stuff. I wouldn't be looking to play him, really most weeks. But yeah, he's gonna play 90 minutes, and we could sneak the odd clean sheet. So yeah, he's probably one of the best 4 million or 4.1 or whatever he is now million
Would you pick him
defenders.
versus, I mean, we discussed with Matt and Paul last week about Jacob Greaves quite a bit. So you got like Greaves, Harwood Bellis, and obviously Fass. How do you group Fass with them other two if people are looking there? Because unfortunately, it looks like Mascara is probably going to be off the table at that price, unfortunately.
Um, I mean, if you're looking to save a little bit, 0.1, then Greaves is probably the better pick. I mean, I think I've got Greaves in my
Okay.
wild card at the moment, just because their run is again, it's really good, and I
His
know
is
they're gonna,
longer.
yeah, exactly. So I think there's not really much in it. I just can't see us keeping too many clean sheets.
No, but you
Um,
are giving off the vibe that there's not going to be a huge number of goals in your games. I mean, part of my thought process with Vardy as well was, and I probably should have considered this more with the other two as well, was I could see games where he scores the only goal and he walks away with the 9 points.
yeah, I mean, our games generally start 1-1 though, don't they? Or they have done this
Oh,
season.
that's old hat, isn't it? Old Brendan's not there anymore, mate. Okay. Suj
And
wants to go Mavadidi on wild card.
yeah, I don't think it's a bad punt actually. I think he's got himself back in the team, rightly so. I was surprised that he didn't start the season. I think that was probably down
Hugely.
to yeah, I think that was mainly down to
I
probably
spent
the
5 minutes talking about him to my dad, and he just went, "Oh,
yeah. I mean, I was surprised he didn't start against you guys in the first game. I think maybe Cooper wanted to go. He put they could ever read in, and he probably wanted to. He knew that we were going to have a lot of pressure, and maybe he isn't as good going backwards as he is going forward. So maybe it was a bit of that involved, and because Reed didn't do anything particularly wrong in the first game, it's probably just gave him the benefit of the doubt for the Fulham game. But every time Steffi's come on, he's looked. He's looked like he's had his point to prove. So I do think that it's his spot to lose now. I think he looks like he's got the bit between his teeth, and he looks sharp. I mean, I was surprised because he looked so sharp in pre-season as well. I was really surprised, and I think a lot of the supporters were surprised that he wasn't playing. But now he's in. I think he should. It's his spot to lose now. That's for sure.
I mean, Such would bench him this week. So I presume it doesn't matter. But are we potentially looking at a scenario with him where he might not play against opponents like Arsenal? Is that what this is?
Yeah, possibly. But then, if it's going to be very much back to the wall, which it probably will be against Arsenal, you're going to need people like Mavadidi, on the break. So I think Cooper. It looks like Cooper won't play him and Fatau in the same kind of match. Depending on the opponent, I suppose. But it seems like he needs someone to be a little bit more defensively minded in there. Yeah, whether that be Jordan Ayew comes in or
Industrious Jordan Ayew,
industrious,
obviously.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I guess that's watch this space, but I would say that if you're going to go there, I mean, he's 5.3 now. I think he's dropped a couple of, so I think he's definitely worth a punt. And the fixtures are there, aren't they, after this match? So
Yes.
I don't blame Sudge for going there.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that I might have the bias here for my own decision with Vardy. But I agree with what you said. I'd see Vardy playing. When he's fit, play. And I realised you had to invest in another forward. Iheanacho going, Daka's injury, and also had a bad second half to last season, etc. You had to get another forward in. But I also can't see that Odson Edouard has gone on loan to you and not being told that he's going to play regularly enough. And I don't think it's in place of Vardy. And I know that he can play wide. And I'm suspicious of that.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I guess you've got to think that Vardy, even though we're probably likely going to have just one game a week, if he can keep himself fit, he should start. But realistically, when we get into the more congested part of the season, Edouard's going to be useful because Vardy won't be able to play, 3 games a week and stuff.
No, no,
So
no, sure. Yeah, no, no, you had to get a forward. That's not in question. I mean, to be honest, I think Vardy's 410 minutes played so far this season is beyond everybody's expectation.
yeah, with no preseason as well. I mean, it's
Wasn't he? He was meant to be out for 2 weeks when he played us. Of
yeah,
course, he turned up against us, didn't he?
yeah, and he said he would score, and he did, and he should have got a couple to be
I
fair.
think I think I said he'd score, and I knew he was injured for another 2 weeks. And yep, sure enough, there he was. Is there if Suj or anyone else wants to invest in Leicester midfield, is Mavadivi the choice then, or should we be looking at El Canous, who made his debut at the weekend? I was quite impressed with Buonanotte, game week 1. Should we be looking at something else here, or is Mavadivi the right pick?
Mavridi's the right pick, yeah, because we probably discussed it in pre-season that if Vardy is off the pitch, which you may get, the odd rest 20 minutes to go or whatever, or switch it with Edouard, if he's on the pitch, Mavididi will probably take the pens. So that's another string to his bow, really. And yeah, I do think you're not really going any of those because it feels as if he's still trying to work out which is the best mixture, really. I think Brennan he's worth keeping an eye on. He's done very well when he's played. Again, I think he's still building up a bit of fitness and stuff, so they're dipping him in and out. But yeah, Mavridi's the pick.
Okay, cool. Adam, anything you want to know on Leicester?
Is there any chance you could concede goals nice and early so the rest of the 90 minutes is quite peaceful? I don't know.
What's he going to say? Is he going to go, nah, nah?
Well, I don't know. Do you know where Jamie Vardy gets his Red Bull so I can spike his drink so he doesn't score a penalty against us? I
Wait,
mean,
we won't have cheats here, right?
well, no, maybe I'll cook up a lasagna instead. That'll be more apt.
Yeah, keep going. Yeah.
I think that if we do concede early, depending on your mentality, but it might be a case of it you could rack up a few goals. But we'll see.
I feel like I was going to say I feel like with the fixture congestion that we're kind of going into, I feel like if Arsenal run up and I'm not saying I expect this to happen, but in a scenario where we're kind of like 3-0 up at half time, I reckon we kind of would just manage the game out in the second half.
Yeah, it would make sense.
Yeah. Okay. Aaron, anything else you want to know from Adam on Arsenal?
Well, I mean, the fact that he thinks Havertz plays up front has, brought Havertz back into the equation for me a little bit. I think I'm just looking at the long term, and Watkins is just screaming at me, I think.
I really thought you were going to say just looking for someone to blame, and now I've got it.
Yeah, I just feel that if you go in the defense, most people are going to have one, aren't they? So you're not really going to be getting, Raya sticks out, value and stuff like that. So I feel like you just look so dangerous from every set piece. So Gabriel's feels like a bit of a no-brainer, really. So it seems a shame he just seems so good value. And you just stick him in there and he'll stay there probably for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, thank you both very much. Let's do correct score predictions. Go on, Adam.
I will go 2-0 to Arsenal.
Aaron.
Yeah, that's probably about right. Maybe 2-3 nil.
It feels like, Adam, that irrespective of opponents, I could sit here most weeks and go 2-0 Arsenal.
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty fair. I mean, I'm kind of more cautious than a lot of Arsenal fans you find online, and I normally predict us to concede just because that's kind of like my nature. But I feel like now finally got to a point where I kind of, yeah, certainly over the next couple of fixtures, I feel pretty confident.
That still doesn't put me off Saka captain because I think like we saw that game week 1, right? Easy beat a goal and assist. His goal involvement for you is obviously so high that me thinking, oh, it might only be 2-0 doesn't put me off thinking that's for me the right captain this week. But I do agree. I think those with Haaland, I think it's closer than people maybe thought it was going to be going into
Yeah,
this week.
and one thing on the goal involvement to note is I think Saka's set piece, his corners have certainly improved drastically compared to last season. Like he's much more consistent in terms of finding a man in the box compared to last season. So that's another string to his bow.
Yeah, I reckon you should change tack, mate, and put him in the box for corners.
Swap it around just for a laugh.
Yeah, mind you, he'd only go and stand in front of the goalkeeper, wouldn't he? Wouldn't there's no other job he'd possibly do there,
Pull his
mate.
glove off, yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. Thank you, gents. Adam, anything else you want to plug, my friend?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at 35who, spelled out in letters, and I'm on FPL Juice as well every now and then.
Good stuff. Tuesdays. Are you on this Tuesday?
No, I'm not on this Tuesday. I'm on in a couple of weeks. I'm doing well, not 3 Tuesday shows in a row, but I'm on Stream Section twice and then the Tuesday show once.
Good stuff. Say hello to the boys there for me, mate. Aaron, anything from yourself, mate?
In comparison to Adam, no, not really. I mean, I'm on Twitter, at Aaron Lagor, but no, it's just Patreon really. So
Try cheese puns. See if you like it. It seems to work for Adam and stuff. We was asked, Adam, recently to finish. We was asked which correspondent we thought would spend the most time on their hair.
What? That feels incredibly targeted.
I didn't say you.
Really?
Someone else did. I just
Well,
didn't. I didn't add anything else to the comment. Talking of which, tomorrow, Clayton and James show on Planet FPL, and I can tell you next week's Clash of Correspondents will be back on Thursday. It is Brighton versus Tottenham Hotspur with Sam Murray and Ricky Saunders. Adam, Aaron, good luck this weekend. Thank you, gents. Cue music, please. Man child.